everybody. Brewery Underground Podcast. Well, you know what? We have returned. And guys, it's the day after the Super Bowl that we're recording this.
That's right.
Scott Touron, we have beer royalty in the house today.
We do. And I was even going to say local craft beer celebrity in my book.
Oh, stop it.
Sure.
But go on.
This man wears a lot of hats, and we're going to get to him because I got a whole line full of stuff that he does here. But let's introduce our friend, Kramer Deans, the Beerded Brotha. Welcome.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Good to
hey,
see
Kramer.
You. Kramer, and here's that list of stuff I was going to say. So Kramer, Taproom Manager at Crazy Gnome Brewery, host of the Beerded Tastings podcast and YouTube channel, co-host of Thrift on Tap podcast, an entrepreneur. The guy does it all. Did I miss anything?
That's about it, but I'm sure Ask Me Tomorrow will be something new. So.
Kramer, were you at the Super Bowl? Were you down there representing?
I watched it on TV, worked right before, did some Taproom Manager stuff, but I watched the Super Bowl yesterday, had my beer, and was ready.
Yeah. You said you watched it in the tap room?
No, I got home in time.
Okay. Oh, good.
I watched like the very beginning, and then I drove home. So
that's good. You get to spend time at home and watch it. Yeah, that's always the best.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
You know, I have a very funny Super Bowl story to pass along. So Scott had texted me on the day of the Super Bowl asking what I was doing that day, and I was like, I really wasn't that excited about the game. I figured, that the Chiefs would probably win. So I stayed at home, and I thought I'll have a few beers at home, and I'll watch maybe off and on. Well, I got into it, and in the beginning of the third quarter, the power went out of my house. And there was like 7,000 people in my neighborhood without power. And everybody's outside with flashlights running around trying to figure out, what the heck was going on. And it was like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a power outage where some of the lights in your house were on, but the rest of them were off. And and naturally,
really?
And naturally, my internet didn't work, so I couldn't watch the game. And our electricity did not come back on until the game was over.
do we need to tell you who won, or did you figure that out?
Yeah, I think I know by now.
Yeah, I think whoever did that was a Chiefs fan. Had to.
They may have been.
They didn't want to see that wreckage.
I don't know.
Man. That score does not. I don't know. We want to go to sports route, but that score does not represent what actually happened in that game.
You were right.
Not
that score looks closer than that game was.
It really should be like honestly 60-0. Like the way they were going, like that was a 60-0 game.
I started looking up on the internet, had there ever been a shutout in the Super Bowl, because it looked like it was going in that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
And like that bad of a shutout, not like a 7-0, 10-0. This is about like they kicked 3 field goals they easily could have scored on, so easily they could have had 63 points.
I know.
Easily.
And the longer I went, the more I wanted the Eagles to score, and the less I wanted the Chiefs to score. I was like, I kind of wanted to
tell my wife that. I was like, all right, they got the touchdown. I was like, it was like 34-6. I was like, all right, I need them to be like 40-6 to make it feel like it's a shutout. And then I think they put in the reserves, their scrubs in on the Eagles, so they ended up scoring a few times. But I was just like, that was really a 40-6 game. Like, 22 was a lot.
And the Chiefs didn't mess up the line either, because it was only 1.5, so there's so much of a spread there. They didn't mess it up for the bettors,
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realize how much I wanted the Eagles to win, because I really wasn't like Steve. I wasn't really too into it, and then the Chiefs started getting a beating. I was getting hyped for the beating. I was like,
yeah. The only good thing about as far as like what I got to see was I figured by the third quarter, when my electric had gone out, that it was pretty obvious who was going to win the game. So at least I knew that. But to miss the rest of it, man, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway. Hey, Kramer, I know you're a beer guy, obviously, and we are too. Are you drinking anything tonight?
Oh, yeah, I am. I got me a nice crowler here just for the occasion.
All right.
What you got?
We just released our West Coast IPA Hot Pop Goose at Crazy Gnome. So traditional IPA, West Coast, so it's going to be super resiny, but we did dry hop it with Equinox and Galaxy hops. So it's got a nice fruity, tropical kind of aroma, a little bit of aftertaste. It's real nice, real clean.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a guy that's not a huge, I'm an IPA appreciator, not a lover.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a pretty big deal, but that's just me.
No, that's a big deal, especially that's a West Coast, because a lot of people that even like IPAs don't like West Coast too. So that's probably saying something for that beer.
Yeah, and Crazy Gnome, we don't go super hard with like over dry hopping. We're not gonna make it the hoppiest thing you ever drank. So it's super approachable, super easy. We dropped it like a few hours before the Super Bowl, so
nice. You're drinking it fresh then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's only a couple days old.
That's
nice.
Nice.
I'm drinking an IPA myself tonight, boys. This is the Apollo 13.
Yeah.
And this is from Johnson City Brewing in Johnson City. We were given this to us recently. And another IPA. So looking forward to getting this down tonight.
Our buddy Eric Latham gave us that beer. He brought it over from Johnson City himself.
There we go.
I've got one that's made an appearance on this a couple of times on this program. Well, you can't see it up here. The No Crust by Marble Fox. Have you had that, Kramer? The peanut butter and jelly?
No, not. Oh, I did. Yeah. I did. It was pretty good. I'm usually not too huge on like styles like that because sometimes they're just a little heavy on me now.
Yeah.
At my older age.
They do.
I could do like a 5 ounce of it, then that's it for me.
Yeah. No, it's good. And they've. When I say they improved it, they added more peanuts this time around than they did the first time they did it, and it's just that much better. They doubled the peanuts in it, so great beer. And it's the last one I've got, so I'm gonna have to reload tomorrow. Anyway.
So. There you go.
Hey, speaking of Crazy Gnome, you are the taproom manager over there. Tell us what some responsibilities that you have and that you do over there.
So it's a little like y'all mentioned before. It's wearing many hats. So I help with social media. I help making sure staff is trained, hired, serve great beer, and make sure when I'm not there, whoever the bartender is, you're still getting equal, if not better, service and getting great beer knowledge. Make sure it's still good beer knowledge about certain beers. Just some real quick talking points that make you sound way smarter than you actually are when it comes to talking beer. Just trying to give you some good talking points that kind of can keep the overly zealous beer nerds that want to ask about what hop lot is these Equinox. I'm like, you don't need to know that. Like,
you don't need to. Do you like it or not? Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like Equinox. You need to know that it's going to be refreshing, fruity, and nice little bitter kick at the end. That's all you really need to know about that hop.
Yeah. Do you get this a lot in the tap room where people walk in and they maybe don't know craft beer necessarily, and they say, "If you got anything like Bud Light or Miller Lite," and you probably get those questions, and you probably have something you can kind of point them to on the draft?
Yeah, we do. We have like the Gold Trinket. It's American lager, beer flavored beer. You know you want beer, but you're not sure what you want. But you know you want beer. Gold Trinket is the answer every time. So because you know you want beer, why not get something that tastes like it?
Yeah,
and it's good. So usually I go somewhere there, and we usually always have something light like that. Like we had the Belgian brioche before that. We'll do Red Hat, stuff like that. Something easy, crushable. That still got to give you that Bud Light feel but with love instead of Bud Light without it.
Yes.
So
actually, when we were at your brewery, when we saw you about 2 weeks ago, I had the Red Hat, and it was pretty good, man. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, that's what makes Crazy Gnome. So
yeah, and it's funny you talk about that because we've heard so much about pale ales and lagers, especially lagers that are changing so much. And they're for the better now that they're making lagers better. What do you think about that? Have you seen that over time as well?
I have, yeah, because actually everybody's trying to do lagering everything properly. You allowing it to take time to get its rest and get its beauty sleep. Now you get to reap the rewards. Yeah, it takes 2 months, but it's a great day 2 months later because you got something super easy, crushable that a lot of people like and look at beer as being. So I think like that's super important. I think you just gotta have something people are familiar with, and lagers now are what people are familiar with Budweiser being around 120 something years. So that lager style has been around, so you know it.
Yeah, that's why they're still running Budweiser commercials during the Super Bowl. It's because of that style, because that style does still exist. It's probably, I don't know, in my opinion, better than ever. Not Budweiser, but the style.
Oh, right. Yeah, just that style. No, I 100% agree.
Yeah, but good stuff. We were there a week ago Sunday. Some family was up from San Antonio, and some nephews had never been over. We brought them to Crazy Gnome to make sure that was one of the places they hit while they were here. They were, hey, you take us around wherever, and I said, where the places you want to go to, and I said, well, Crazy Gnome's got to be one of them. It just happened that you guys were there. You got to see you and Grayson, and everybody was kind of there that day, and everybody got to hang out and love the beer.
Hey, that's what we love to hear. We definitely love to hear that, and we love that people that might be anti-style end up drinking that style. I can't tell you how many people have been scared of a black IPA, and then that ends up being their favorite. I can't tell you how many people were scared of the chili porter, became their favorite. I had a guy that doesn't like IPAs at all, tried our Velvet Sunshine last year. He drank like 4 in a row in that one sitting. So it's just like, that's always, I love seeing that. It's like, oh, I don't think I'll like black IPAs. Just try it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, at least you know.
Yeah.
And so they end up trying it, and they're like, oh, I'll have another one of these. This is amazing. Like, I didn't even know these existed. Yep. I was like, see?
And then what happens with those people is they go somewhere else and they see a black IPA on a board somewhere, and they're like, oh, man, the last one I had was really good. I need to try these. Because, first of all, we don't see them enough anyway out in the wild. So, to see one, for me, I've always got to get one.
Oh, yeah. I think people are scared because it's almost like, it's just basically a supercharged porter, but you use a West Coast hop instead of a noble hop.
Yeah, and then the darkness of it sometimes could be daunting to people. That's going to be a real heavy beer kind of thing, but that's not what that is at all.
No, not at all. Same with like black lagers. A lot of people get scared of black lagers because it's just so dark. It looks like it's going to weigh 1,000 pounds, but it's crisp, easy, almost easier to drink than a lager at times. Times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm assuming, Kramer, that one of your fun jobs that you get to do as Taproom Manager is you get to try the beer really before it goes out to the public. I mean, that's got to be a pretty cool part of your job, right?
Oh yeah, that's one of the best parts, because you get to do the QC, just see if everything in at all stages, which is also very important. A lot of people think you just drink beer all day. I'm like, yes, but a lot of it's for legitimately for science.
Yeah.
And so making sure, because we can't put out an infected beer or a bad tasting beer or a beer that needs rest or time to complete its process out to the world. So it's got to be points. Even like for every good beer I have, I got to taste it at its worst in its process, because you got to taste for all flavors. You got to taste for diacetyl, which is just basically a fancy word for a popcorn smell, like buttered popcorn smell in your beer, which means it's not ready yet. So you need to let it sit. Sometimes you got to taste it. Sometimes you got to smell it. So like for every time I get to enjoy the final product, I got to enjoy it at its worst. You know that saying, if you can't enjoy me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
There you go.
Like, okay. When you're an awful hot burning IPA still crashing in the tank, all right, I got to try and make sure we don't get anything weird. Then I get to taste. Oh, I got to taste the bad part. Let me taste the finished product, and then get the pictures, do social media and stuff for it. So beer is a lot more purposeful than people just like, oh, you just drink beer all day. I'm like, yes, and also no. So it's always an interesting way to explain that.
You're getting to taste it, like you said, you taste it along the way, but as it's evolving and progressing, you're like, okay, I've had the worst, like you said, it's getting better, and then you get to taste it at the end, and you're like, man, I can remember what it tasted like at its worst and how far it came during that process. That's got to be cool.
And, no, I love it, because like you said, like, and also go a direction you didn't think it was gonna go, and you're like, oh, okay. Sometimes think good and bad ways. You're like, oh, it's gonna be really roasty, but it ends up being more coffee flavored, and lo and behold, you wanted more coffee, but you were worried about the roasted flavor. Like, you're like, oh, yes, it hit coffee. Great.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you're like, oh, shoot, we got to do something. And I call it the makeup of beer. Sometimes you got to throw hops in there and dry hop it to kind of pretty it up sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much input do you have when it comes to the beer styles and, brewing the beer and making the beer? I mean, do you have a lot of input too?
I don't do anything production wise.
Right.
I definitely do like taste the final product, be like, hey, this needs more time, or hey, you might want to do this. But for the most part, that's usually Grayson's MO. But I'm usually like I'm a good second set of eyes, second palate to kind of try things. Because you have that bias. You own a brewery, you make the beer, you're gonna do everything to make yourself believe it tastes good.
Yeah.
So, it's my beer. And everybody has that. Like, you make something. This is your podcast. You would hate for someone to criticize it. Even if they might be right, it would be hard to hear. You gotta do everything to make it believe the Brewery Underground Podcast is fantastic.
Right.
Even like when it's like the episode was absolutely terrible. It's like he kept dropping out, the video kept freezing. You're like, oh, it's great. I don't think we can put it out there.
Yeah.
But somebody else coming like, yeah, Scott and Steve, don't put this episode out. Just re-record it.
You're right. When we get those comments, I just delete them.
There you go. They never happen.
We just ignore them. Hey, everything's going great, guys.
Yeah, things are fine here.
Kramer, what was your introduction into craft beer and the craft beer community as far as drinking beer and kind of working in the industry?
Drinking beer has been the thing since at too young of an age. I just make sure the moms, I don't want to hear this, don't hear the actual age I drank and where I first drank. But it was a while now, so I've always I like beer. And so I thought I was cool all the way up to junior year of college. So I was drinking Bud Light Platinum. I thought I was king of the world. I was like, oh, ain't nothing better than Bud Light Platinum. You can't tell me a damn thing. Screw you guys.
High ABV.
Yep. It was about 5.5%, 6%. It wasn't.
For the day. It wasn't
a weak Bud Light. Right. It wasn't a weak Bud Light product at the time. And then my roommate was like, hold on, let me show you something. He showed me Shock Top Belgian Blonde, one in the orange can, and I had that one, and I fell in love with it. So then it just kind of built my world around craft beer, and I went to go search other things. So then it went to Grolsch, and I had my first porter and stout. I forget who it was, but fell in love with those, and I thought I had a pretty decent palate. That's why I knew having a palate was really important, because I had like a Green Man Flash IPA, a super West Coast tongue cutting IPA. And granted, I had like an infant palate at this time, and so I had it, and I thought I was ready, and I took a big gulp of it. I thought I was going to die because it's way too intense for someone with my young palate. Like IPAs, I don't care what anyone tells you, you don't want to drink that too early in your beer tasting days, because that's how you get out of beer real fast. Mm-hmm. But I already had stuff I already liked, so it wasn't hard for me to stay in the craft beer world. And then I started going to breweries and really liking the space. And then that's kind of morphed into how I got into the industry. And then I started worked at Tailgate at the beginning, and then I ended up over at Jackalope, and then I just been kind of rolling in the space since.
Your path to drinking beer, craft beer, is similar to mine. Like mine was Blue Moon, was kind of that. Not if people might not even call it craft beer at this point, but at that time it was a craft beer, and that was my transition into this craft. And from then on, it was, what's this next thing I can find? Oh, here's a style I've never had. And I'm like you, I was like, hey, IPAs came later, didn't like them initially, and now it's my go-to. But let's learn all these things. There's some sour something over here. Sure, let's go try that. And the journey continues for me still. Anything new pops up, I'm drinking it.
Yeah, I'm for it. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like Doppelbock, what is that? Now it's one of my favorite styles.
Mm-hmm.
New Heights had one, and I'm still hurt. Jeff and John over there, I'm hurt that y'all still don't have that Doppelbock back. That was so good. That was one of my favorite beers in the city.
Really? Was that recent that they had it and was gone, or?
Oh, they had it. I know they had it before COVID, and I think it was gone before COVID, because they had it for a while, because it was in a homebrew contest, and the recipe won. It was called Excalibur or something like that.
Okay.
and they had it. And maybe they got rid of it in like 2018, 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. And like, I don't get heartbroken a lot, but when I heard they got rid of that and the triple they had, I was legitimately heartbroken at that.
I love it. 7 years later,
That
you're
was
still
fun.
thinking about it. You're like, damn it.
Yeah.
So get you right
Like,
here.
Hits me right in the feels every now and then. I think about it. I'm like, man.
Kramer, it's
Especially they
funny
weren't
when
not
you were
around.
Kramer, it's funny when you were talking about what kind of got you into craft beer. I know Scott mentioned Blue Moon. That was one of mine too, along with some Sam Adams. But the Shock Top, I remember early on. Now, I haven't had a Shock Top in a number of years, but I'm curious. You ever go back and get any Shock Top now, or have you kind of more graduated because of the
No,
office craft?
you gotta go back to remember. I get like a can like once a year just to commemorate my journey. Because I feel like you never kind of. It's like your true love. Like it's like your first love. It's like I'm never gonna go back to it strictly ever again. But it's like you taught me how to love, and you can't forget that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was having a conversation just recently with somebody, and I said one of the ones that had got me hooked a little bit was the Sam Adams Cherry Wheat, and I remember drinking a lot of that in the beginning, and I haven't had one in a number of years. And I was at a store recently, I looked up and I saw it, and I just kind of smiled and started laughing, and I'm like, maybe one of these days I need to return to the old Sam Adams Cherry Wheat.
It's like that closing scene in Batman when Alfred and Bruce saw each other. Not a word was exchanged, but just it's one of those like you
just
said a 45-minute to an hour conversation in a head nod, and y'all knew exactly what each other said. It's like that. You just remind me of that. It's just like you see it, you're like, hey, old friend.
That's fair. That's fair. You say that, and I haven't had a Blue Moon in forever. However, I have been to the Blue Moon Brewery in Denver, and that place is freaking amazing.
It's fantastic. I went there a few years ago, and the stuff they have there is so good. That's why I used to be like, yeah, Blue Moon used to be craft beer, not anymore. Then going to the brewery, you're like, yeah, it's just a big craft beer space. It's just big. Yeah. That's all it is. But it's still craft. Their menu is very selective still. They still have everything as craft, like a craft brewery. So you're not really walking into corporate like I haven't been to Anheuser, but I heard good things. But I can only imagine that's as brewery like as possible, as much as it can be.
Yeah.
So
big, giant, massive, brewery kind of thing. Yeah. Blue Moon still has that. At least the location still has that small craft, even though it's Miller Coors, and the place is great. Yeah, I think probably I would say 75 to 80% of the stuff they have in there, Steve, you're only going to get in that tap room.
Right.
They have all sorts of stuff in there. It's amazing what they have.
Yeah, like their Blue Moon is like 3 other styles of it. I think they got like a mango one, like 2 other ones that are like, dang, they're just as good. Dare I say better than their widely distributed Blue Moon?
I agree.
I still say if I go somewhere and you go to a sports bar or something, and they're out of like maybe they just don't really have anything. They're probably going to have Blue Moon. So I'm like, all right, you have Blue Moon at least. I can settle on that. I'm probably not drinking, most of the domestics that are going to be out there anymore. But if you got some Blue Moon for me, or if you got maybe something, seasonal on Sam Adams, I can generally handle that,
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
No, although when you go somewhere, it is over there by the Coors and the Bud Lights. So, as far as the tap handles go, it's always in that section too.
Yeah, with the Miller Lite Coors.
The good stuff is on one end, and that stuff is on the other.
Kramer, I'm curious because I saw on the website for Crazy Gnome, you came here from Atlanta, and you went to Belmont, I think in 2010. Is that right? Yeah,
my freshman year was 2010.
So do you remember when you came to Nashville? I mean, I've been here since 1998. Where were you go to? Where were your go-to places for craft beer options? Were you drinking craft beer in 2010, or was it after that time?
No, I didn't really start drinking craft beer until about 2012, 2013. Okay. I was 18. I was a doofus back then. Yeah. So at that point, Nashville had just enough 18 up clubs, so I can go anywhere. I was trying to get anywhere that if you just order with enough confidence, they would have served you, because a lot of those bars had no handle on that at the time. Hence why
Sure.
probably ABC has cracked down like crazy the last few years. I
Yeah.
was probably the last generation to screw that up for everybody. So my apologies. I apologize for the generation, aka myself, because I was probably one of the main reasons why they did that.
Well, lucky for Steve and I, we're older than you, so we were good.
Yeah. So, but I gotta apologize to the generation under me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
But once you were of legal age, 21, and all of a sudden it's like you're starting to discover craft beer a little bit. Where were some of the places that you went first off here in Nashville? Do you remember?
Man, there was Bosco right
Yep.
before, which was I always tell this story just like because it's just hilarious. I was working at Martin's Barbecue at the time, and so like I would close after a real busy shift. A buddy of mine, Casey, we would go to down 21st because we worked at this is when the Belmont Boulevard location was still new, like brand. It was the newest location at the time. So after a real busy shift, we'll go to Bosco's and have beer there. And the funny thing was, this night, me and my friend were hanging out there. We were having a good time. They're like, "Hey, you want to join the Mug Club?" And so we're reading, looking at the Mug Club. We were like the closest you can get to buying something without buying something, but times it by 10. That's how close we were to buying it. And then we begrudgingly left. And then the next morning, I get up on Facebook or something, and I just see like posts going national viral, like, you hear about Bosco? You hear about Bosco? I was like, no, what? They just closed this morning, like permanently, just out of the blue, blah, blah. I was like, I don't know if you remember, like, Bosco's just closing out of nowhere it was on 21st by Vanderbilt.
Yep.
I was like, I don't know, you heard about that. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that story, but yeah, like, I was there the night before this unceremonious permanent closing happened. Wow. And like I was closer than close to buying a Mug Club the night before.
Oh my god.
What a great no decision at that point, right? Like
right. One of my best like investments ever.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of my first few experiences.
What was the reason they closed? Did you ever kind of find out why it was so abrupt?
And I just hear like the owner was garbage and just not a good person and not a good business because he closed but didn't tell any of the workers. So people were coming in to work and it was just basically a random note on the door and be like, yeah, we're closed. I don't know what to do. Okay, bye. Like,
oh shit.
He just left people in limbo. They're like, are we getting severance? Where do we go? What is going on?
Yeah, and there's still one location. I don't know if it's the same owner, but isn't there one still in Memphis that lives?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Flying Saucer.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, exactly. The Flying Saucer, and Bosco's and Blackstone. You know, when I was like, okay, where are you gonna go to get different beer? And you felt like you were high on the hog. You're not just going and getting the regular domestics, you know.
I missed Bosco's completely. I don't know how I missed it. It must not have been open long from when I got to Nashville, but I hear more about it now than I ever did 20 years ago.
Yeah, so it closed probably, was that 2013, Steve, somewhere in there?
That sounds probably about right, yeah.
It's probably 2014 because that location.
I worked downtown. I used to work off of Music Road and down that area up until about 2000. What was that? 2008, I think. And so, you know, like I said, Bosco's, you know, the three I mentioned were really about the only decent choices around. Maybe the beer cellar every once in a while you could go and get something.
You had Hop Stop for a minute too.
Yeah.
What was that
one? It was called Hop Stop. It was out in East. Do you know where Tiger Bar is?
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
Or like the Fox Den, Nicoletto's.
Okay.
It's if you look up Tiger Bar now, Tiger Bar was Hop Stop. It was on that corner.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so it was a late night spot. So like I would go on my midnight drives.
Yeah.
Drive around for like an hour, grab a beer, keep on driving. It was like because it would be like a perfect, because like East Nashville wasn't fully developed yet. So you could kind of wander your way through without running into too much traffic or anything. So I always stop over there, have a beer or two, and then get in the car, keep on driving. And so that was another good spot. I loved Flying Saucer because it was 200 beers.
Oh my
So
gosh. Had so many great times there.
The same stuff. Yeah. So that's another time the city broke my heart. Like,
yeah, I think so many great times at the Flying Saucer with friends, and just, the amount of beer that you could get. And I mean, it was even back in that day, they had 200 different beers on tap, and it was from all over the place. I mean, you would just go in there and you'd be like, man, I mean, this is cool. I can't, it's not you're just going in and getting like the 5 regular domestics that are going to be on tap at your local sports bars.
Yeah, you're getting imports that you didn't even know were kegged.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know they did this in a keg. When did they do this in a keg? I thought it was just always in a bottle. Like,
yep.
Like even like Delirium, I was like, I just thought that I was always in those matte clay bottles.
Yeah.
That's the only way they served it. And y'all got it on a draft? What? But you got it nowhere else either. So it was just like, it's just like that exclusivity was crazy. And that's what I loved about the Flying Saucer.
Yep.
I think the growth of breweries in Nashville over the years is probably what led to their demise, honestly, because our beer scene got so much better here brewery-wise. I think that's what I did. I had to just end up going to breweries instead of Flying Saucer anymore.
Yeah, I can see that. So,
well, and I think the location got a little challenging too with downtown traffic, and I mean the growth. Because back in my day, the traffic in downtown it wasn't as bad as it is now. I mean, you can get through down there. And speaking of traffic, Kramer, so I'm curious. You're from Atlanta. All right. Do you have family still in Atlanta? Do you still go back there?
Yeah, my mom, my sister still live down there, so I go visit quite often. And I got a bunch of my best friends live down there.
I'm curious because we know Atlanta has a good brewery scene there. I mean, how would you compare the brewery scene from Atlanta to Nashville?
Nashville's really good, but Atlanta's a little bit better just because it's bigger. So all of its areas are a little more developed. So you got neighborhoods within a neighborhood. Like East Nashville, you just got all of East Nashville. You kind of call Fatherland a neighborhood, or Eastland, Inglewood, but it's not. It's just different. Not like worse, but it's just different. Basically, Nashville is just like Atlanta's little brother about. So it's like it's very much looks just alike, but it's growing like how Atlanta grew when I was growing up as a kid. But it's just where I was as a kid here, where like, yeah, you got like downtown, some neighborhoods, but they weren't fully connected. Now, if you go to Atlanta, like if you go to like the East Nashville version of Atlanta, you got like Virginia Highlands, you got Moreland Avenue, all over that area, Ponce de Leon, Ponce City Market area. But that's all on the same side of town within 2 minutes of each other. So you can spend your time in that section of Atlanta and you're not going anywhere. And you get everything you need from breweries to good food to good entertainment. You got parks, you got places to hang out. And you don't have to go to downtown Nashville. Yeah. You don't have to go to one or two neighborhoods. Like you could just like basically like, yeah, East Nashville's place to go. But like imagine if Eastland and Fatherland basically had all of East Nashville within their neighborhoods, but you still had East Nashville as a whole. Like, so just like imagine now, like,
yeah,
all that, but within a neighborhood. So you're like, all right, I'm done with the Eastland side. Let's go to Fatherland. Cool. Let's go. All right. Let's go to the Main Street part of this section. And you are within 10 minutes, 15 minutes of anything. So it's like, I think that's where Nashville is going to head. And once it heads there, I think there's another step Nashville breweries could take then. But right now, like, I do think we are doing pretty well. We have some breweries that opened up, some breweries that are moving, some places have returned. So it's not a scary place to open up a brewery right now. The industry is a little weird right now, but I think it's just balancing out at this point right now. That's just my humble opinion.
You make a really good point. There are breweries closing. We've seen that in the last year, well, even longer than that, but here and across the country. But then you work for a brewery that is expanding. And there's a couple breweries in town that has expanded. So there is growth still, but there is a settling out at the same time, which is kind of weird. I still like to see the growth. I love that Crazy Gnome's adding another location. We're going to talk to Grayson here in a few weeks about that. But what's your perspective on that? Like, not that there's a reason that things are closing or places are closing, but it is a weird kind of settling out kind of period, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just like what every industry does. You explode for however long, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 100 years, and then it gets where that mushroom cloud stops growing. Now the dust is settling. And amongst the dust, some things will get damaged. And so in this case, things close. And I think that's just more so about like people riding the coattails of the explosion and not realizing the business side of the liquid in this glass.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of people are like, hey, I homebrew for 10 plus years. I got 5 or 6 recipes people really love. Let me buy this random warehouse in this developing neighborhood, build a couple draft lines, put a couple seats in here. Y'all drink my beer, and every time I put something out, y'all come running. Which was the recipe? If you were just kind of halfway paying attention while you were drinking, you could notice that like just things were clicking. It was like all these people were popping up. Now COVID hit, people's taste buds change, people's health decisions change, and people what they want in a space change. Now you can't just be like, oh, you put Eureka and Galaxy in a hops in an IPA. I gotta try that. I'm running there now. It's like, all right, cool, you did that, but like everybody's looking for that experience now. So now you're like, man, I did drink a lot. It was nothing. I'm sure for y'all, it was nothing for me to go to 4 or 5 breweries in a day.
Same.
And go to that extra if you're feeling real spicy that day. And now it's like, because you might go to 2 really good ones that you know that like, man, I love. I'm just making up names. It's not necessarily good or bad, but it's like, all right, I'm gonna go to Beerded Tastings because they just dropped Ever Clever. Oh my god, that I gotta get that. And then I gotta go to my next favorite place, Crazy Gnome, because they just dropped the Red Hat. And then you might have a few others. You're like, I really like the owner. Me and the owner are cool, but the beers are just okay.
Yeah.
Now COVID hit, you're like, I'm gonna go to 1 or 2 breweries. If I go to the third, it's gonna be a long day tomorrow. So where do I want to go? Well, how do I expand my experience now, where I can have a good time, but also good beer at the same time? Because you got to get away with a bad experience, but your beer is good. Which you could get away with a good experience, the beer not good, because you're like, I like Steve and Scott's brewery, but now you're like, I love Scott and Steve, but do I want to use my trip on their brewery when I could go to Johnny's and Crazy Gnomes? I think I'm going to go to Johnny's and Crazy Gnome because I want a good beer and a good experience. And I'll just say, hey, to Steve and Scott some other time. And I think that kind of happens. I think people kind of getting into a point where like they're panicking because like people are falling off. I'm like, it'll bounce back out. And most industries do that are viable, right? The ones that don't work, there was never really an insight, or it was never meant to make it anyway.
Yeah. That dollar we've talked about on here, that dollar doesn't spread as far. I'm going to pick 2 instead of 4, like you said. I'm just going to focus on these and spend the same amount of money, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
In just a couple places now. Steve and I do that thing. Like Murfreesboro is a good example for us. We'll make a trek out there once in a while, and of course we're missing Mayday now and Panther Creek, but we'd go and we'd make sure we could hit as many as we could in that day, whether it be 4 or 5 or whatever, because that was spend the whole day out there and get all the experience, hit them all, and come back through, hit Deep South Growler on the way back, and then kind of maybe hit Champy's out there for a little food. But it was an experience for us, that whole just spending a day out in that area.
Yeah. And Kramer, we don't want to give this away too much because we're actually going to be talking to Grayson about this soon. But how exciting are you personally? The Crazy Gnome is going to be moving soon into a new location, and it sounds like the brewery experience is going to be a big part of that. I mean, that has got to be pretty cool knowing that you guys are going to be part of that evolution.
No, I no, it's very exciting because one, we are going to fix a lot of the things that were just plaguing us, like parking. we're gonna have our own parking. That's gonna open when we open and close when we're gonna close. So it's not open. We don't get parking after 8 on these specific days, but only if Dragon Ball Z is on in Japan at 3 p.m. and it's not a lot of like moving parts. And we get 3 spots, but kind of not 3 spots.
Yeah.
In front of the liquor store. We get all our spaces. We open at noon. The parking opens at noon. We close at 10. The parking closes at 10. And we're within a neighborhood, so we're walking distance from a big clientele. So we're just in a situation to the point where it's like it's ours to screw up. Like,
it's exciting, but it's yours at the same time. It is yours now. That's the thing.
And it's ours. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
We're not at the power of anybody except ourselves. Like I said, it's like it's for us to screw this up.
Yeah.
At this point, So bigger spot, bigger tap room, be able to do bigger events, all this stuff, have a space for doing little shows and stuff, even live podcast episodes and things like that. So, and we're gonna have an outside space and all that good stuff. So, like, there's a lot of things that are going our direction right now, and it's just up to us to push it as far as we can push it starting now. So, and we're gonna try to do everything by the book and just kind of, like I said, not screw this up. That's all we really got to do is just,
hey man, Crazy Gnome is in good hands with you and Grayson and the rest of the team. Crazy Gnome is in good hands, man. The future is bright for sure.
No, I'm really excited just from the Taproom Manager side, like, because Grayson's going to do more ownership stuff for Taproom Management and maybe just really look at like what we need to do as a culture. And so I'm super excited working on new training sessions. And so when y'all come in, it's still going to be Crazy Gnome, but it's going to be the grown version of it. Like, we're here from infancy to our young adulthood now. Now we're getting ready to go.
Ooh.
We graduated to college and we're getting ready to hit the real world now. Even though we've been in the real world business-wise, but like just that growth and stuff, you're going to the next level. So it's a lot of different things. What happens when you grow, you got to learn new things. You got to relearn things, unlearn things, and things like that. So when you walk in, it's going to be the same vibe, but it's going to be more of the realized vibe. You're going to walk in and be like, oh, now this is Crazy Gnome. Awesome. Yeah. Crazy Gnome was cool at 948, but when we go to 1005, it's going to be like, oh, okay.
We see it. Yeah, we see you growing up now. We see
the purpose. We feel the purpose.
The gnome got a little bigger.
Feel that excitement with everybody.
The gnome has grown up a little bit. You mentioned, and we mentioned this at the top of the podcast, the word podcast. You, my friend, are a part of 2. One is your own, and you're a co-host on another one. So you are the host of the Beerded Tastings, right? Which I love because not only do you the podcast, the visual too. You do some video stuff too at beer fest and things and all sorts. And I love those. So, and then you're the co-host of Thrift on Tap podcast. Talk about those, man, and what's the difference between them, and what do you like to do on them, and kind of who are your guests, and just kind of tell us about both podcasts.
So my main podcast is the Beerded Tastings, and that's just getting Black people into craft beer through education, conversation, and genuine connection. And so I mainly interview different Black people that do really cool things in the city, whether they're a socialite, whether they're a DJ, they work in politics, they own a business, just things like people I think are doing really cool things that need a better light than what they're getting. So I've interviewed artists. I've interviewed the guys from the Nashville Black Market that host every first weekend of the month at the Farmers Market, I believe. So I've done stuff with them. You guys saw me doing a guy that owns a nonprofit, played in the NFL for a little bit. So it just kind of goes everywhere. We go to different breweries just so people can see the space and walk in and literally see what they're drinking and where it comes from and things like that, and just show them the areas. And like, I can't tell you how many people are like, I lived here 10 years and I've drove down this street, did not know what this was, and things like that.
They didn't know what a
And
Crazy
so
Gnome was or something like that.
yeah, and I took someone in New Heights when they had that old mural up there. He's like, I see this mural all the time. I did not know this was less than walking distance. It's a skip away from New Heights. And they're like, I didn't know this was here. I was like, yeah, man, like a lot of these places are in really cool parts of the neighborhood. Places you probably would hang out if you knew about it. And not now you do and things like that. But the difference with that is, well, Third on Tap is actually not a podcast. It's a shopping market I do with my wife, and we bring Black-owned businesses to different breweries. So they'll do like a little market, 10 to 12 vendor market of different things, from clothing to, if you're really into energy and kind of like that rock energy kind of thing, we got people like that. So it's always different vendors and stuff. You come in, you literally sip and shop, like grab a beer, buy some product. So like you go to a vendor, we would give them vouchers where we agree with the brewery, like, hey, they buy something, they get a beer or get a discount. So it kind of incentivizes everything. You purchase from one of these vendors, help them build their business and the empire they strive to get to. But also you get to try a new place and you get to try a discounted, usually do like half pour or like a 5 ouncer. So you get to try something you never would have tried without coming here. Yeah. And so it's just like a perfect bang for the buck. We haven't done it in a while. Me and wife have been a little busy with life and stuff. But when we were doing it, it was always a really good response. A lot of people, same kind of thing. I didn't know this was here. This is cool. This beer is really good. Like, how long has this been here? It's like, so it's a lot of great engagement, a lot of great ways to start genuine connection and just help bridge that gap in a natural way. Because a lot of times, I'm sure y'all seen it, there's always beers that have like a hip hop album on it, or they make some sort of hip hop reference, and it's the whitest people in the building. And so, like, we've all seen it. Like, if you got eyes and are halfway paying attention, you've seen it once or twice.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, they have Notorious B.I.G. in here, and it's the whitest dude named Jeff. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. So it's like just raising that gap. Like, hey, we're hosting these people. Come check it out. Buy some merch. Check out this place. Because at the end of the day, I don't get offended when people don't like beer. I just want you to understand beer.
Yeah.
It's like, it might not be for you, but guess what? You might know 2 or 3 people that would. And we'll take that as an industry.
For sure. And it's such a social thing, too, if you get to a brewery, whether, like, we've all hung out at places we might not have liked the place or whatever, but to hang out in a social environment, and you got your friends around and like, oh, man, the vibe of this place is cool. Maybe they don't like the beer. Maybe the brewery has something else for someone, too, which is part of the whole business thing, right, of brewery having something for everyone. But like you said, you kind of teaching somebody something that they didn't know, and you're like, holy shit, I'm coming back here.
Yeah, like I told my friend, they do the Nashville Black Market. We did Fate the Forest, and they could not get over the aesthetics of Fate the Forest.
Yeah.
They're just like, this place is dope. Like, how long has it been here? 2 years? What? I didn't hear about this. I love the Victorian, and they got NBA, they got 1800s, then a splash of 1993.
Yeah. That NBA Jam game
with NBA Jam.
Everybody,
but then they hear that there's ready to drink cocktails and wine. They're like, oh. So it's like, I don't have to get stuck or feel like I'm forced to drink beer because I'm hanging out at a brewery. It's like, oh, they got a cider. Oh, they got some wine. Oh, they got this little ready to drink cocktail and things like that. Of course, the breweries want you to drink their beer, but the fact that they get you in there and get a new set of eyes in there and a new energy that you would have gotten any other way tends to kind of like ignite people's inspiration a little bit.